What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nothing But Nugget Show. It's your boy Antoine Campbell. I got a special guest with me, my guy Todd Morris, all the way from the Midwest. You from Ohio, right?
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, so you
Right.
got
You from the? I never been. I got to come up there one day and check it out.
this is like a Cavs shirt, and then I got the Cleveland Brown mug. So I mean, we don't have any sports, but I'm living through the memories of all that stuff. So
Right. Yeah, I'm a Washingtonian, so I know how it is when it comes to sports, man.
yeah,
It's
we
very,
both had it. We've both of us have had kind of a rough go at it the last like 5 to 10 years. So
yeah. I don't. For us, I don't think it get no better until the owner croak and die, and
right, yeah,
then it get better. But until then, I just wait it out.
yeah,
Yeah, so introduce yourself to everybody. Let everybody know who you are, what you do. Some people might not be familiar who you are, but
yeah.
definitely introduce yourself.
Yeah, so just went kind of the traditional route as far as, I went to a college and got a business degree. I figured if you got a business degree, it'd be really easy to get into any aspect. I did know I wanted to be in real estate, but not really what aspect of real estate I wanted to be in. And I was playing soccer in college, so jumped out of there. And one of my soccer buddies I was at Tiffin at the time, got me some sort of a TA or GA spot at Bowling Green, and was able to go there for grad school and study some finance stuff. And graduated there in 2013-ish and went straight into basically residential real estate. Just got my license, started trying to help people. Got my residential license so I could buy and sell homes for other people. Was making a little money off that, but was more so doing that just to get around like-minded people that were already investing, buying buy and holds, flipping houses, stuff like that. So I got my license just to get a better network. I started working with some home buyers or home flippers, stuff like that, investors, and started to help them rent and lease their properties. When they were done with the flip, I'd help them, list and sell their properties. And then, we always say once you can do it for someone else, it's very likely you can do it for yourself. So learn from that and got tried to get on the horse pretty quick. And as soon as I realized that I was making okay money, but they were making a lot more, it was kind of how do I get on the other side of the coin and start doing this for myself. So, it took that little learning period where I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was learning and building a network. And we went from, helping other people to basically, buying some Burr method houses or some duplexes, real small stuff. My first house ever was a duplex, and did some flips, kept using the flip money to buy more rentals. And eventually got into wholesaling just because, that was a really good way for us to continue to buy flips for ourselves at really good prices, but we could also sell them off real quick and make some coin. And eventually it seems like a lot of people, if they stay in real estate long enough, they kind of get into the other side of apartments and bigger stuff because it's easier to scale. So we've done all of it. I would say our focus today is apartment buildings, Airbnb, which, obviously we're kind of coming live from the virus and the lockdown, and the travel kind of crushed the Airbnb stuff, but I believe in that model. I believe it'll come back. So we're apartments focused, Airbnb focused, and I run a consulting business now. So that's kind of my whole last 7 years and a minute and a half. So.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. The diversification that you have within yourself and your company. So, like, I believe in me. I have multiple companies too. If one is not doing as great, the others should be able to hold the operation together. Mm-hmm. So, do you mind talking about your consulting? What do you do specifically when it comes to consulting?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good transition too, because I want my mentors to be two things: really focused on one or two current businesses, because I believe that the most profitable and knowledgeable people in business are kind of laser focused. So right now, if it doesn't really fall into apartment buildings or Airbnbs, you'll see us wholesale it a lot because we're just trying to stay very focused in one or two things. When you're very focused, you tend to make more money, make less mistakes. So I was able to learn that from my mentors, but I also learned that really, really good mentors, although they're laser focused right now, a lot of times the last 20 years when you were kind of growing up or getting into the industry, they were taking this winding path and they've done a little bit of everything. So no matter what kind of problem you're in or industry or asset class you're in, they can help you, be it the Burr method or single family flips or wholesale. So although I took, a windy road to kind of find my niches, I think that helps me kind of be a mentor or a consulting, consultant, for the 70-ish people we have in our program, because they're all, scattered throughout different asset classes, and some of them have 2 rentals and some of them have 200. And we're right around, my portfolio is right around 1,000 doors now. So, I've done a little bit of everything to get there. So I think, without tooting my own horn, that we can help just about anyone that's investing or owns a business in real estate.
So, cause I'm the same way, brother. I don't like saying mentor, right? I always tell people I'm not your mentor. I'm like more so a consultant. Like,
Yeah.
if anything, I can kind of like show you things you can tweak in your business that can kind of like impact your bottom line. And as far as your portfolio of 1,000, what did you do to get it to 1,000? Like, what's the asset allocation? Like, what does that look like? How many Airbnbs, or how many Airbnbs would you want in your portfolio? How many single families that you prefer, or versus how many apartments you want to take on? Is there a formula that you use?
Right. Yeah. No, not really a formula. For me, before even the virus kind of stepped into the world, 60 some days ago, I could always tell that obviously Airbnb was a little more seasonal, a little more high risk, but the returns were higher. So I wanted that to be a small portion of my overall portfolio. So right now, I'd say we're closer to probably like 800-ish units, 50 of them being Airbnb, most of them being apartment buildings. And where that 1,000 number comes into play is we got another $2.7 million building under contract the other day. So that, a couple hundred units, or the 2 or 3 deals we have under contract, would get us right around 1,000. So we're hoping those close. Most of those are apartments. And right now, I was just on another call right before this, but we're not stopping the Airbnb model by any stretch, but we slowed it down. Obviously people aren't traveling, and if you study the money markets and the lending and stuff like that, a lot of the single family, or what they call basically, the products we were using to refi these single families, the loans, they've changed drastically in the last 60 days. They've gone up 2 or 3 percentage points as far as interest. And they've also brought down a lot of the LTV on these.
Right, I've seen that. Yeah.
So it's just harder for us to operate there right now. So we're fishing hard in these big apartment buildings now. We have adjusted our focus a little more to that side until the dust settles with everything going on with the world. I don't have a percentage of Airbnbs that I want in my portfolio. Or, there's a lot of reasons with that call. I was just on with my buddy Zach. He was talking about getting into some mobile home parks and stuff like that. There's plenty of other assets that we're kind of starting to dip our, toes in the water and see if it makes sense moving forward. But we underwrite things all very similar. We have most of our assets returning anywhere from like a 12 to 15 cap, and our portfolio kind of floats in that range. So we're buying things that are value add, maybe that are underproducing or just need a bunch of renovations, trying to push them to almost completely renovated, so they're not high maintenance moving forward. And then, like I said, we float in that 12 to 15% return ratio as far as the units. So I don't have necessarily an equation, but we're kind of operating on the majority of our portfolio will always be apartments, and then we're going to try to diversify with the Airbnb and maybe mobile trailer parks and land wholesaling, just so if something happens, like this virus, but different, maybe that affects the apartments, that we still got the Airbnbs to cover or not. If, it affects Airbnbs again, we still have that consulting business that has the residual income. Like you were saying earlier, if you have a couple businesses and they're all clicking, it makes it much harder to face some sort of economic downfall or something that pushes you out of all businesses at once.
Right. Because like I was telling one of my team members earlier, she was like, hey, boss, we're in the middle of an epidemic. You still hiring people. And I'm like, this is the chance for me to scale, because one of my businesses, I run an outsourcing agency, a VA company, where I recruit people and I train them up, and we provide them to different people for whatever needs they have. And I'm like, hey, I see a turn that a lot of people are going to be working from home, and a lot of people are going to need these VAs, these admins, and business is picking up because of that. Sure. So, sometimes you pivot towards the action because that's how you're going to make your money. And it takes a different type of entrepreneur to be able to swallow that type of risk and know that you might lose money in the process.
Yeah, one of my mentors, Brazzi, is well over 3,000 apartment units, but he's very good at hiring, firing, and seeing opportunity. And he was talking about basically whenever a very common business and or investing term is if there's blood in the streets or people are scared, it's a great time to buy. And it's just the same with employees. If people are firing or laying people off short term, you can go grab A and B level employees, great talent that maybe was harder to find when everyone was had jobs and not unemployment. He's looking at basically all of this as an opportunity to buy apartments and to hire great talent. So it's just how you see it. Is it a problem? Is it an opportunity? And how are you going to approach it? So
how you staying like liquid? Like, is there a type of amount that you wake up and you must have to feel comfortable to run your entire operations, or you like Grant Cardone, cash is trash and I don't need cash?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably closer, and I know Grant Cardone has taken a lot of heat. Actually, some from me, not that he probably even knows who I am, but I don't like his model in the fact that he buys some things that are non-value add and maybe already at like retail numbers.
Right.
And the way he operates his funds, raises his capital and stuff like that. We have some disagreements. And I always say, when I do a video about him, as much as I disagree with some things, I think he's probably, the GOAT in some other fashions. His sales techniques, his marketing techniques, he's always getting attention. And I do believe cash is trash. You do need reserves. But if you go look at Cardone's portfolio, a lot of that stuff is new build, Class A, beautiful buildings. You don't need as much cash or reserves if you have that kind of asset class than you would if you have C-level buildings and C-level tenants and stuff like that that are beating them up. So you have to know your product, and you have to know kind of how you operate as a human and an investor, and make sure your reserves match your model. I don't have a number. I do have, I don't know, that number. When it gets below it, I go out and kind of make sure. I always tell people, like, businesses are like plants, like I see myself as an apartment guy and an Airbnb guy, and we do make a lot of, quick tax-free cash off the refis, but we're playing long-term for the residual and, rent per month increasing, the legacy wealth where it comes in every month, no matter how many months go on. Where if you're flipping houses or you're taking that tax-free refi out, that's great. It helps a lot, but it's not as predictable as the first of the month every month. So
right.
When I get below whatever that number is kind of in my head or in my bank account, I'll go out, and although I do see myself as a focused apartment owner and Airbnb guy, if the money's low, I have roots in wholesaling and flipping, and I'll go make a couple bucks and, treat my business like a plant. Does it need water right now? Is it overwatered? Always trying to play long-term legacy first of the month money. But one of my other mentors, Lee, he always says you can go broke making a lot of money, So cash flow is king because it's more predictable, and cash, it does no good if you're just sitting on in a account, or you got this big amount of cash coming, but you go broke on cash flow trying to get to that huge payday. So I kind of treat it the same as Cardone in that aspect. You want to be more cash flow focused than cash in the bank focused, at least in my opinion.
Awesome. And everybody, I see landlords just talking, investors talking about there's a difference between occupied, right? Like, how occupied are your properties versus most investors don't care about the occupancy. They care about the amount of rent that was actually collected. Mm-hmm. Because you can have a 90% occupied, but only 70% people paying. That's an issue. Yeah. So how big are you when you underwrite your deals?
Yeah, I think that's probably the two biggest KPIs for buy and hold guys, right? You gotta. There's three columns. How many complete units do we own? And maybe that's around that 750, 800 mark. Let's say 200 of them are under construction, getting work done, stuff like that, in the value add phase. So we really have 600 units that could be rented. So you got a percentage. How many of the 600 units are rented? You can calculate that percentage. It's massively important, like you said. But the bigger number is how many of that percentage or that number are paying you monthly and collecting. And one thing that in my model, we buy stuff, and we're doing one this month that I'll run through super quick and hopefully not have the numbers confused too much, but we bought it at like 1.7. We value add, got the tenants up a little bit in rent, made sure they were all paying, and we're putting out like 2.6 million. So we owe 1.7, and we're going to get like 2.6 by the end of the month from basically a construction loan turning into long-term fixed debt. and that's tax-free, which is super cool. But I'll tell you why I think those metrics are so important. They will not give you that secondary refi loan until you can show 90% collections on the building for 90 days. So just like you were saying, a bank doesn't care if you're 100% occupied. They want 90% collections for 90 days. Now they're saying, all right, this guy's a legit operator. We're comfortable increasing his debt load, because obviously if you're collecting 90% of your building at market rents, they're going to have better debt coverage services. They're going to have more faith in the loan that you can cover your note and your taxes and all that kind of stuff. So hugely important, not only because it's what drives your money, but it also is what allows you to go get better bank money, better terms, better loans moving forward. So I think that's massively important in a portfolio, those two metrics.
So what are some things that you must have on your desk, like to start your Monday morning, or to start the week? What, like, some metrics, some KPIs, some information?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's some things your team must report to you on a Monday?
Mm-hmm. So as far as the BRRRR section, or the buy and hold, we've kind of already gone over that. I have 2 whiteboards that we set up. One on the left would be projects that we have and already own and basically have an action item on. So we have obvious hard files where we stick, receipts and invoices and stuff like that. We also have digital files where our joint venture partners can check in and see, how much money we spent, last week, or what our next action step is, or just track the project from basically a cloud, right? Because they can't come in and see our hard files. And I think it's good to have, right, to be honest. I know a lot of people will say, what's the point of a hard file with the cloud and all that? But basically, to get it in the cloud, you had to scan it anyway. So we just throw it in a file. That way we've got 2 different kind of backups. So that's just like the files that you could access down the road. I love having an oversimplistic notebook where basically I'm just keeping the stuff I want to do that day. And then I have 2 large whiteboards, the one on the left being every project that we have moving right then and the next action step for us, and the board on the right being all our active leads and the next action step for us to get that obviously from the right board to the left board where we actually own it. So right, I think you need a more complex system than that for your team and your JV partners to come in and check what you're doing. But I also think it's really powerful, if you're taking notes or on your laptop, just to look up and constantly be reminded on, how do we get those deals that we like that are leads over here. And if you're doing the next action step every day off that whiteboard for the ones you already own, naturally they're going to transition into those metrics of, all right, now they're rentable. All right, now they're rented, and then, all right, now it's collecting on the rent. So that's kind of just my everyday gut check. If you're spending too much time scrolling on your phone or sending text messages and you look up and that's right there, just a really good reminder to get back to what you're doing. Some of the top half of the board would be KPIs for my team and myself. A lot of mine is, having conversations about raising capitals. How many people am I talking to about raising capital and getting funds together? How many social media pieces like this am I putting out? I used to be heavy in the day-to-day of our operations at Red Door and Bulletproof, and now it's more kind of about driving a brand and letting the people that we joint venture with and my sales guys and 1099 contractors and W-2 employees, they all have their own KPIs, but mine are more about getting noticed as far as putting out good content, being a good consultant, and obviously raising funds. If I'm able to do that and I hire the right people underneath me, they hit their KPIs, which might be, how many offers did you make today? How many buyers and sellers did you talk to on the phone today? How many of your contractors did you talk to today if they're in the project management? That kind of KPI for them. More so for me, just trying to drive a brand, get people on the phone that might want to invest with us or, kind of invest with us. As there's 2 different kind of investors. They invest for a pref return, which is, 1099 taxed on their end. Maybe they get 12% flat. And then we get a lot of guys that want to put money with us, but they want to be a joint venture partner and get a K1 return. So that's where they're basically an owner and they're getting less tax because they have depreciation. So that's where I'm focused, is raising funds, driving a brand, and obviously, helping people grow their business. So those are my KPIs. The other ones, if I do mine, and we always have, the consulting has allowed us to have 70 people work underneath us. We add value to them, but they also bring us a lot of deal flow. So if that deal flow is coming in from the consulting side and I'm always raising capital. I have a lot of faith in my team to hit their KPIs of obviously closing the deals, meeting with the contractors, getting the stuff on Airbnb, Zillow, whatever. And it's big to have your own KPIs, set up theirs, but not always micromanage theirs. Or you get so busy micromanaging, you won't be able to focus on yours. And if you're the CEO and you're a good CEO, you're kind of the engine anyways. And if you don't focus, obviously everyone behind you is going to fail because you're not doing the right stuff.
Right. And what does that look like as far as like your whole raising money process? Like, is there a way you go about raising money, or you just networking and to the point that eventually they want to do deals with you, or you have Facebook marketing ads going out, or how does that look?
Yeah, mine's almost purely organic, where I spend a lot of money going to events of other people's networking events nationwide. I host monthly events and quarterly events here in Cleveland. And just trying to be a person that they see that, either, you talk the talk, which usually on social media these days is the first way you meet someone, right? Like the world's changed. You can talk the talk. Someone will reach out and say, hey, watching what you're doing, like what you're doing. And then maybe 3-4 months go by, they come either to one of my networking events and or masterminds. And we develop a relationship, organic relationship. And basically, I just got off the phone with a guy that reached out to me. His name's Zach, on Facebook today, saying, hey, I've been watching what you've been doing the last couple of years. I've been doing similar stuff and would love to kind of K1 partner with you and basically become joint venture owners and stuff moving forward. And we had a 28-minute phone call. Felt like we had like minds, and it wasn't like you were just meeting someone new. It was like someone that you knew already, right? Because you're similar humans. And we got off the phone saying, all right, the next step might be send me your next couple of deals you over text. And if I think they're good deals, then we'll jump on an email or a Zoom call and go over more specific details for the K1 stuff and offering memorandum and see if it's a good fit. So a lot of organic stuff. I'm not big in, and there are people that raise tons of money by doing the, they can sign up for certain funds, the 503c&b, and they can just email blast. They can get on Facebook. They can raise in a more unorganic way. And that's huge. There's a lot of people making a lot of money doing that, and it's perfectly legal if it's set up right. One, I don't yet, and it is a focus of mine in the future. I don't own like a hedge fund or a personal fund where that I take money and place it into my deals or other people's deals. So I'm usually raising as far as a PPM, like a private placement memorandum, where I already have an apartment building and I need $500K, and I go raise $500K organically. Some of these guys are raising $50 million for a fund, so it's much harder to raise $50 million just by having conversations. They got to go out and blast it on email, pay-per-click, podcast, stuff like that. But you have to do that legally. So one, I'm not in that space yet because I don't necessarily need it. And two, there's some more legal ramifications. Plus, I got friends that do it, so I can tap into their funds and stuff like that. But I love the organic way because you're really asking these people for 100, 200, 500 grand. I feel like they got to know you, and I feel like they got to trust you. You can get money, 500 grand, from people that don't know or trust you. But for me, it just seems so much easier. Being organic, putting out content, meeting them in real life, and then obviously, extracting money for a win-win situation. So that's how I do it. Everyone's got a different little process.
So, because even like people when they go raise money and they become this big face, with things like COVID hit, there's a lot of backlash, especially if you decide to stop paying distributions and all of that. Like as a private, I don't know if you call yourself a syndicator or you just an investor. I don't know. But as an investor, when is it appropriate to stop the distributions to your investors?
Never, and that's probably where I'll bash Cardone a little bit. When this stuff did hit, he stopped his distributions to his investors. And I even had mentors of people that I was at events with when this was coming down that they talked about reaching out to their mortgage lenders and private lenders and said, we might not be able to collect rent. We might not be able to move our wholesales as quickly. So all these little branches of our business are going to make less money, and we're basically going to have less rights possibly as landlords as well. So we want you to basically make less money as well and give us more rights, maybe by stopping our distribution or our distributions and or payments to you for the note or private money that you've put in our business, I never entertained it. I've made every payment since this has gone on. I haven't asked one person to give me a little leash. I just said, we're gonna make this work. And I believe that even though that might put you in a tighter cash restraint for 60, 90 days, you get on the other side of this and there's a bunch of investors that stopped or didn't make their payments, and you can show a track record of, one, never not making a payment, and two, never having the conversation, like entertaining the thought of not making a payment. If I was an investor and someone called me and said, hey, is it cool if I don't make my payment? And I said no, and they did make their payment, I'd probably not lend into them on the next loan, even though it didn't happen. The fact that this guy was willing to even think that he wasn't going to pay his investors back seems to be a red flag for me. So I would say never. And luckily, like I said earlier, I'm not sure I have that reserve amount in my head, but it seemed to be good and plentiful for this little virus. And hopefully this is all out of the wind soon and we're just back to the dust settling and everything back to normal. But we didn't have to do it. So one, thank God I didn't have to do it. But two, I didn't want to entertain it even if I did. I would have tried to find a way, that's just who I am, to bootstrap it and do whatever it is I had to do to make those payments. So I'm hoping that everyone had that same thought process, but there are a lot of statistics out there in the commercial world and single family world is a lot of people, foregoing paying their 2, 3, 4 months in their mortgages, and a little harder to track in the private money world, but I hope it's not the same, but I could see that being the case. So that's bad. But as there's always, a bad side and a good side, when this bubble pops in three more months and everyone's got their balloon payments, due on those mortgage forgone payments, people that still have good credit and still have good relationships are going to be able to obviously go out and buy a bunch of that stuff when there's a lot of people that need to pay a balloon. So if you did it the right way, there's going to be a ton of opportunity in 30 to 60 days. And if you didn't, you might have fixed some cash flow issues now, but you might have hurt yourself long-term. So I'm hoping people were smart about that and tried to make it, as responsibly as possible through this whole downturn.
Yeah, that's interesting because like you said, it was a whole bunch of mixed messages out there with people just like, hey, we might not be able to pay anybody. We don't know what this thing look like in the next 12 months. And it just makes you think, like, how can a lot of businesses go a month or 2 weeks without being open, and literally they run into the bankruptcy court? Like, what we as a country stand for is like, financial literacy and economics. Like, how can Fortune 500 companies don't even have the liquidity to make it to the next 2 weeks? It's just mind boggling how this country is set up.
It's scary.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve is printing away, and that's puzzling because when you print money like that, eventually it's going to mess up the integrity of the financial system and the dollar. And I think we'll suffer later on. I think that this is something that's a start of something even bigger. Multifamily is going to bounce back because no matter what, most people don't talk about this. You got the backing of the federal government, with the jurisdictions and the sheriffs evicting people if they don't pay. You don't have that same situation if you own a house. So if you stop paying your mortgage, I know out here in Maryland, I know folks that haven't paid their mortgage because we do wholesaling. They haven't paid their mortgage in 4 years.
Yeah.
So the bank haven't collected on the loan in 4 years. So
yeah, I mean, and the reason why that's the case is that it is truly scary because obviously if you go back and look at some of these numbers, and comparing them to 2008. Now, there's a lot of different thought processes out there, but 2008 was basically caused by a housing and mortgage problem. So housing and mortgage got crushed because we kind of started the problem. So we were the ones to kind of feel it the most. And I think that's, one, not only fair, but obviously been proven over the last couple of years. Obviously, this not as much caused by a mortgage and housing issue, but more over a health / food issue or a governmental issue, depending on what you kind of believe. So I don't think we'll see the residual effects as much in the housing and mortgage markets compared to 2008, but you don't know because the numbers are so inflated that might trump kind of the cause of the economic collapse. So in 2008, we had something like, 7 million people filed for unemployment at the highest rate. We're around like 33 million right now. So we're 5 to 6x of what the worst economy had in the last, 70 years, we're 500% of that rate. So that's going to have some sort of effect, like you said, and it's going to trickle way longer than the virus, you know?
Right.
So I'd be interested to see if that's actually going to collapse the mortgage and housing market like '08 did, just because it's such a large number and so much more widespread than '08 was, as far as unemployment and mortgage foregoing their payments and stuff like that. But the reason why you see some of these people that have backed water bills or backed mortgage bills of like 5, 6, or back taxes 5, 6 years is because '08 was so bad. And a lot of people don't think there's like deals out there right now because the market was so hot before the virus and stuff like that. But there were deals out there, they call them zombie inventory, of deals that were, basically caused by the '08 collapse. And they haven't even surfaced yet, because the banks, when they foreclose on all this stuff, or the city, if they foreclose or whatever due to a tax or water bill, they don't want to push them all back out month 2, 3, 4 after they foreclose on a big chunk of the market, because then they kill their back sale amount to recoup their debt. So they've been holding on to some of this stuff for legitimately a decade, and now they still got that, like you said, they've got people 4 or 5 years behind, and now we're going to get a whole new wave. So we got the zombie inventory that they haven't moved yet. We got people 4 or 5 years behind just off, we'll call it like random circumstances, not an economic collapse, but maybe they lost a job, something that's not widespread. And now we got another economic collapse where we might see an entire new wave go over top all that inventory that existed, the people you're talking to and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I'm wondering, what we'll see. And I've been trying to help, kind of as many people as possible be safe. And if I can help, give some back to people laid off or that got hurt real bad in this virus kind of phase over the last 60 days. But selfishly, if this seems to be as bad as it is and trickles on as long as it does, if you were able to keep your cash reserves and credit in a good position during this, you should obviously see massive opportunity moving forward. So,
yeah,
I'm not praying for any worse situations.
And that's why I've been sitting back just being quiet, man. I pay my personal bills on time. I save. Like I told my wife, like, listen, every dollar I make, I'm putting in a savings account. So I'm saving, but I'm telling people I'm broke, because I know when the opportunity hit, I want to make some money, man. I want to make some real money.
Smart. Yeah, I think it's a good time to sack up cash and keep your credit lendable. Yeah. And like I said, if you can't pay your bills, you got to do it right now. It doesn't matter what we're going through. So, like you said, hopefully, you can't control what other people are going through, but you obviously can react and take advantage of a market that was going to do that anyways,
Right.
So people like you that put themselves in a good position, they're going to see really big returns and opportunity in the next. I would say you're going to start seeing, and you can probably speak on this better than me, but as someone that's buying and wholesaling a lot and talking to distressed sellers, unless they've already been 4 years behind, there's still this level of like disbelief that this is happening because it all happened in the last 60 days. And there are some, government assisted programs or mortgage assisted programs that are letting them kind of feel it out. But, that's going to probably pop that denial phase where they're like, I'm fine. 30, 60 more days, they're going to say, okay, I'm not fine. And we're going to have the wholesales really start to show up. And then we're going to have, I think in like that 6 month period where people start to kind of have banks reaching out to them about possibly foreclosing and stuff like that. I think that those are the phases where the opportunity is going to come in, not obviously right now.
See, me just sitting back, knowing that we talk to hundreds of people a day, and looking at the entire situation, it got me puzzled, right? You got, on one hand, you talking to the homeowners and you see it on the front lines, what's really going on. On the other hand, you look at Facebook and there's a different la-la land. Everybody like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, I'm still selling houses. But I'm like, hey, that's stuff that was already pending before this happened, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? All these people that was pre-approved, all that stuff is before this happened. Now, here's the issue that I think that was going to happen. And, this is my theory. Around November, December, that's when shit gonna get real. That's when the knife gonna fall from the kitchen table and stab you in the foot. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Because think about it this way. Right now, everybody who's struggling right now is living off credit cards.
Sure.
They're tapping into their home equity line of credit that they already have, and they're borrowing against their 401k.
Mm-hmm.
So when the unemployment runs out, there's only a certain amount of time you're able to collect unemployment. There's only a certain amount of credit the bank will extend on you till that credit line runs dry. There's only a certain amount of money that the 401k people allow you to borrow against your 401k.
Right.
That's when shit get real. Because
Mm-hmm.
now people don't have nothing. They don't have anything to rely on.
Nothing
See,
but bigger payments, right? Because if you're piling up that debt, you're going to have a
yeah,
bigger monthly payment. So now you got less income in it, less income coming in, and bigger monthly payments. I think you're right. I think that's when we start to see some real problems, and people going from that denial phase of, all right, I can see this through, to, all right, I'm in a bad spot. Not only how do I get out of it, but how do I get out gracefully? And that's maybe sometimes the investor can come in and you can find a win-win. I'm never for taking advantage of someone, but
right, right.
there's always that line where they put themselves in a bad position, and you have some cash where you can find some sort of a win-win and hopefully get them out as gracefully as possible. Because like you said, it's not going to get any easier moving forward if you've compiled all that debt up.
Right, it definitely is. So, given the current circumstances and your pre-5 year goal, most entrepreneurs I know have goals and short-term
Mm-hmm.
goals and long-term goals. Where do you see the pivot for yourself and your company? Where do you think you're going to try to take your company with all these pre-calculated circumstances that came about because of COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, I do have long-term goals, and some of them are reverse engineered from dollar amounts. Some are just, kind of ego plays. Like, I want 20,000 units. I don't know where I got that. I know that's a big goal and way higher than I have now, but I've got those. I've got consulting goals, and I think realistically, all this does for me is probably makes me a little more disciplined in the short term, and then a little bit more aggressive in the medium term, because I know that those big goals might have took 10 years. If you go crazy in a recession or opportunity zone, you can shrink that 5-year goal maybe down to two
Right.
and a half, 2 years, because there's going to be so many people either withdrawing out of the market that were players, or so many people pushing into the market, like you said, that maybe compiled debt and have to get rid of assets. So I have the same goals. I just hope that I've put myself in a position to shrink that down, because if you hit those long-term goals fast enough, obviously most people that are kind of wired that way are just going to create new goals, right? So I just
Oh
want to
yeah.
shrink that time down. I want to stay disciplined and make sure I don't waste one of these, because like I said, I would never, I'm patriotic. I love the country. I love seeing other people succeed, but I can't control this. So when the country hurts and other people hurt, it's not like I can fix everything, right? I'm not the Federal Reserve, or I'm not, some trillionaire that can donate all the money
Right.
or something like that. So I can take a bad situation and make a bunch of money off it, and then hopefully make bigger impacts in the future. So just hoping I can make myself some money, and then obviously spend it in the best way for my community and people around me. So just shrink those goals down and get more aggressive.
Man, brother, I don't think you should be feeling embarrassed about taking advantage of the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
that's presented before you, because you got to tell yourself, for the last 800 years that I can think, because I like economic and history,
Yeah.
1% of the population control the entire wealth. You
Sure.
know what I mean? So like,
Sure.
just because a virus come along, that don't mean you should kind of change
Mm-hmm.
that trajectory. I think that if anything, your family needs you to do this. Your children need you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have children, I know for me, I got 2 boys. I want to leave something alone that they talk about me 100 years from now.
Yeah.
They write about me in college. Professors make lectures about me.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, it got to be aggressive now. I never in my life would have thought that we were seeing a window where the economy turned around in a
Yeah.
30-day period and everybody's on their fucking face.
Yeah.
Not even the small guy, the big guys. Everybody's
I
getting
agree.
their ass handed to them. So, like, if you don't take advantage of this, I don't think you'll never get another opportunity like this ever
I
again
agree.
until
And
you
I
close
think
your
that's
eyes.
something that's probably not talked about again, is that although massive opportunity and massive big players falling on their face, '08, you saw this thing kind of slide over like maybe 6 to 18 months, from
Right.
when it really started to slide. And I think they call it Black Monday with the stock stuff. And then to the bottom, you're looking at a 6 to 18-month window, depending on what you consider the bottom or when it started and stuff like that. So you're 100% right. We've never seen this happen in 3 days. If you go look at the stock market, it happened in 3 fucking
Right.
days. Crazy.
It's crazy. And so it basically, to me, just looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, I'm going to pivot. So, like, e-commerce got an alley hoop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
And a brick and mortar, and because we all know brick and mortar was already dead, right? They was just holding on to a limb. So these big box retailers, they never adapted to say, hey, let's work with somebody like Amazon. Let's work with another Abu Dhabi, whatever that little website is. Let's work with these guys and partner with them so we can withstand them taking some of the market share. Same thing Facebook did when they identified Instagram. Man, we said these fucking dudes are idiots giving these boys $1 billion, right? But when I looked at it, and I was a little younger when that acquisition happened, I said that guy Zuckerberg is genius because he just bought out his competition. You know, Instagram was the next big thing that was going to take Facebook out. Now they control the entire Facebook and Instagram, and they making money. Like now, I run ads on Facebook, and I can go on Instagram, and it complements each other. So I just think that moving forward, like you're gonna have all this retail space that is really gonna be worth shit. It's not gonna be worth anything. I think banks gonna take it back, and they can't do nothing with it because that type of tenant isn't there anymore. People going to be working from home now. People going to be buying stuff. It's never been a time in life where you can go in a grocery store without your debit card, pick up everything in the cart, put in the cart, and the grocery store know what to charge you when you walk out the door. Like, that's innovation.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, we're going to see some big changes moving forward as far as the retail space. As you said, almost what we, office space, right? Because this has proven to hundreds of companies and employees that you can do your job, if not better, at home,
right?
Than you can do in the office. Maybe there's less distractions. Obviously, there's less illnesses. They've in a period of obviously a dark time. It has exposed a couple asset classes that maybe are not going to come back ever. And there's going to be a lot of things going on with that. Does it get redeveloped into apartments and stuff like that, or does it sit massively empty for a long time, and then eventually the cost basis comes down so much that you can buy it? We're gonna be watching that kind of stuff. I think you already touched on a couple: retail, office, and student housing. These universities are shutting down sporting teams. A local one here, I think it was either Toledo or Akron. They shut down 11 of their 20 actual not degrees, but they have their branches of colleges. They shut down half.
Right. I got what you're saying.
It's crazy,
It's like specific areas of study that they got dedicated facilities to. I got
you. Shut down 11 of the 20, showing that they think that, one, stuff like this can happen in the future, and two, that students are going to probably opt to do online classes for the foreseeable future, but maybe ever. So I think you touched on some, and then those are probably the other one or two I thought of that we're going to see take big at least short-term losses and possibly never come back.
Right. Yeah, I think if anything, I'm not really a stock guy, but if I had money, like stock money, like hedge fund money, I go all in with Amazon. These guys, man, like that model, it may be true, like 50 years from now, maybe a competitor come knock them off the throne, but I can't see nobody slowing that down. He figured it out, like, Steve Wynn and him are kind of like buddies. So he figured out how to take a company and provide a flawless service, and how to make the employee happy, so they can provide a flawless service to the clients. So that's a wonderful model. Like, I order shit off Amazon, I'm not satisfied with it, and they send me another one and say, keep it. We don't want it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is crazy. It's almost like it's not worth their time bringing it back in and trying to refurbish it or sell it or whatever.
Yeah.
They got a beast in there, and like you said, I know a lot of people that have opened up like drop shipping or Amazon complement businesses in this little virus era recession, whatever you want to call it, that are obviously exploding. So I think it's huge, one, to pivot, but just study trends. Business is binary. Real estate, corporate businesses, illegal drug dealers, they all have something in common. They all have like systems that work across the entire world. And to think that, your business or your model will be safe forever if you're not studying trends moving forward is kind of ignorant. So, I'm always trying to study businesses that are either in the same industry or just completely opposite. If it works for them, there's a really good chance it works for you.
I agree.
Dollars and cents doesn't care what sector you're in. That's for sure.
I agree. So, is there any words you want to leave somebody with? Maybe some words of encouragement, or something you want to leave people with?
I try to pay attention, because when we get new consulting clients for that Bulletproof Cartel, I just did a video on my personal page the other day. I try to pay attention. I always ask them their 1 year-ish goals, so I can intro them 1 year, not saying that they're all new, but 1 year in my consulting business, what they want me to help them accomplish. And a lot of them are new, some of them aren't, but they usually have the same two comments or responses to that, is that they want to replace their 9 to 5 income, or they want to do their first deal by X number of days. Because what you'll see is two things in this time is that, we were taught growing up that if you get a good degree and you get a 9 to 5 and you have a salary, that's job security. Well, everyone just found out that's bullshit, right?
Right.
That is no longer and shouldn't ever be considered a truth again. A lot of entrepreneurs knew it, but 30 million people just found out, right? And that's scary. So that's what you see, people replacing their 9 to 5 with passive income and things they control. So I would encourage people, if they haven't taken that leap, to at least start reading and studying how that they could possibly become in control of their own destiny and not just get fired over something they couldn't see, coming. And then 2, the other one is they want to do their first deal by 30 days or 60 days. And they all have different answers by, the days wise, but it's all about doing that first deal, because you'll see a lot of people that watch podcasts like yours or read books. They love to learn, but they get scared to pull the trigger on that first deal. And I think, again, what this has shown us is, 1, life is short. And 2, you never know what's coming. And 3, we're in a situation where you're going to have more opportunity now than possibly the next 20 years. So if you're not comfortable pulling the trigger with the most opportunity you'll see in the next 20, 30 years, then when are you going to do it?
Right.
I would just encourage them, now's the time. Because 1, we've seen that big corporations, even though they promise job security, they don't have it. And 2, you're at a position in the next, hour to 120 days where you're going to see more opportunity in sectors that you'll never see again. So I would just encourage people to kind of go and do their first deal, or put down the book and try to help people joint venture or help property manage and get their feet in the mud instead of just watching great podcasts or reading good books. I always tell people, you don't have to get it perfect, just get it started,
Right. Same thing here, man. I really appreciate you for taking time out your busy schedule. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It was an awesome conversation, man.
Yeah,
hopefully we can do it again.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you having me.
How can everybody reach you? You on IG? You got an IG on Facebook?
Yeah, so I shared, when you went live, I shared it on my Facebook. So hopefully, obviously, they can see it right there. And then I'll go in the comments of your video and my video and just drop the link for my Facebook and Instagram,
awesome.
Stuff like that. So,
man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, I got another episode of Nothing But Nuggets. I try to do 2 a week, just to push myself, right? With Max. He works with Steve Tran. I forgot how to pronounce his last name. Max Hernandez, I think. I don't want to mess it up, but he's going to be on tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, catch you guys on the next episode of Nothing But Nuggets.